Hey, welcome to Hidden Indie Gems, where we embark on a journey into the vibrant world of indie gaming. Join me as we delve into the creative minds behind current and future indie games, uncovering what sets each one apart and makes it truly extraordinary. Today I got to talk to Oliver Cooksey, aka Narwalnut, solo game developer for the upcoming title Insectile, which is a clever turn-based RPG about puzzlingly shaped bugs. Now, this podcast has no sponsors and is 100% audience funded. If you want to support my creative work, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description. Every dollar makes a huge difference. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Narwalnut, that's the name that you go by?
Yes. Yeah, that's normally.
Okay, cool. So tell me, where'd you come up with the name?
When I was like younger, someone was trying to describe to me. I got at some point like this fixation on narwhals. Someone was trying to describe to me what they were and like had me like draw one. And I was just like, I guess it's like kind of like a dolphin with a horn or something. Like I wasn't really sure, but I really liked the little doodle that they had me do. And so I got for a while where like I bought a bunch of like shirts with narwhals on them. Yeah, it was just like sort of this obsession. It was just a fun little personal thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with like my games or anything like that.
You're the only one working on this game right now. Tell me about how that's going.
That's going good. So I really like doing every part of the game design process. I've liked when I worked with other people. It's not that I don't enjoy that. I think that is really cool to specialize, but I think there's also something really neat about like I know exactly how I want the scene to look, and so I have like a lot of say over like every artistic piece that goes into it and like how it's gonna feel to play and that kind of stuff. It's at some point if the game got like funding through Kickstarter or Patreon or something like that, I would maybe consider getting some things done by other people who I think could do them a little better than me. Even though I like to mess with everything, I've definitely got things I'm better at. And so it'd be nice to get somebody who's like, oh, I have this vision, and this person I know could help me realize it better than I could. But then also, I work with a bunch of testers. And so I do it by myself, but I have like pages and pages. Like I have friends and all sorts of people who are just really generous and give me like pages of feedback and all their thoughts. And I end up using it a lot of time. Even if they didn't make anything that goes into the game, like the game wouldn't be the way it was without all those kinds of people.
What kind of game is Insectile? How long have you been working on it?
It started as like a game jam. I think it was GB Jam. I made a game called Carniforest. And even that, I didn't come up with the idea right there. It was an idea from a notebook from a couple years ago. And I was like, this is a neat idea. I don't really know if it's going to work though. So I think a game jam sounded like take a week and just mess around with it and see if it kind of works. And I was really happy with the feedback on that. And that was, I think, 2021, maybe 22. I think it was about 2 years ago. So after doing that game jam, I kind of kept it on the back burner, like kind of thinking about it, like how could I turn it into like a full game? Because it did pretty well and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Not at the time. I was really disappointed at the time, but like in hindsight, I was like, that actually was pretty neat. I think that could be a cool full game. And so I've been like really hard working on it for about a year. I think since Bell Boomerang had its Switch release, this has been the main thing I've been working on.
How did the game start? Where is it now? And kind of what were the steps in between?
Well, I guess I should kind of explain the game proper. I've been calling it a clever combination of turn-based RPGs and puzzle blocks. I like that hook, but I don't even feel like it really does it justice. You kind of look at the game and it sort of looks haphazard, but then like once you get it in your hands, it really flows together super nicely. It's got like a bunch of these elements of like exploration and this feeling of like chasing and like capturing all these little creatures. And it kind of represents some of those pieces through puzzle blocks, which sounds super strange, but it ends up working almost more like a logic puzzle. So there's still like a little bit of like that RPG strategy of thinking like, well, unlike a puzzle, it doesn't have like a correct solution. There's always multiple ways to go about a problem. And so you have to kind of think like going before the encounter in the game, you have to think like, okay, these kinds of pieces have good synergy with each other. Or like I already know this about the battle, so I can use that to my advantage and stuff like that. And so a lot of development was just perfecting that. After Carniforest, I made a prototype and it didn't go very well. I sent it to a bunch of testers and they were really nice about it, but a lot of them were just like, man, this gets boring really quick. Like this was strange. I had trouble understanding it. I was like, man, such a bummer. And at that point, I was kind of considering like, okay, should I go to a different project? Should I? And then I like took a step back and looked at like, okay, here's what worked in the game jam. Here's what testers are saying doesn't work. And I had a little bit of that was like reading between the lines of them being like, I don't understand this. I'm like, well, why don't they understand that? And then I pulled it all back and I made a second prototype and sent that out to testers again. And the feedback was a lot better. I changed basically everything about the game. I think stylistically it changed a lot, and pacing wise it changed a lot. And people were a lot more interested, and they were able to play it for like an hour and were still willing to play more and still wanted to play more and were still interested. Different people took different play styles for sure, but everybody still had fun. And like once I kind of saw how well that prototype did, that's kind of when I started jumping into like, okay, I'm going to start marketing. I'm going to start looking into like, when can we get a Steam page up? When can we get a trailer up? And alongside all of that, I'm now developing like I'm cleaning up the prototype to turn it into the game's kind of like world one or like area one. And then I'm starting to develop like a world two. I'm still fairly early in development, but to be honest, a lot of the heavy lifting is up front. Like getting all the systems to work really well and getting all the mechanics to flow together. But now I'm like kind of in the rhythm and I'm thinking it should go pretty fast.
The game is just very charming, and I think from a marketing standpoint, like the game mechanics, what the game is about is important, but like for it to just look nice and like it's appealing, like I can see like there's all the cozy game people like just talking about this game all the time.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So I mentioned Bell Boomerang briefly, and I'm still proud of that game, and I really like it, but its gameplay didn't match its style very well. It's also tried to be really charming and colorful and cute, but it really played like something like a harder platformer like Castlevania or like Mega Man or something like that. And that's one of the things I've considered a lot with this game is, okay, I like working in the style. I love this style. Let's try some gameplay mechanics that I think will fit a little more. Like make something that's like a little bit more relaxing, make something that's like more interesting in like a discoverability way where you can kind of go at the game at your own pace, and the game doesn't push you to make any super hard decisions, but there's still challenges there if you want them. Like I wanted to make sure it was a very accessible game, but still had like some depth to it and was still fun to master.
So can we talk a little bit more about then just the gameplay mechanics? What are some of the unique features of the game?
Well, obviously it's a little bit of a cross genre. Um, I think if you like RPGs or puzzle games, you would be interested in this game. I think there's stuff here for you. And I think the way in which I combine the puzzle and RPG mechanics is pretty unique. At least as far as I know, I don't see a lot of other games do it that way. If an RPG game has puzzle elements, they're normally pretty removed. It's normally like, okay, we do a battle, then we do a puzzle. Or like the battle just is a puzzle and there isn't really any strategy to it. Insectile is kind of unique in that you can approach the battle either more puzzle-like or more RPG-like. You don't have to be good at both, but being good at one like kind of enhances it. And Pokemon, one of its main mechanics is like this big type chart. It's like all these different matchups. Insectile has a type chart, but it works really differently, where everything is kind of an opposite. So it's based on like equal and opposite pairs. And so if you try to notice the equal and opposite pairs and bring in like these certain combinations of bugs to your battles and try to collect these certain combinations, then you're set up to where you can just make one or two good puzzle block placements. and really get some damage across and really make some progress in the game. Those little combinations and like finding those synergies is really what it's based around. In like Pokemon, at least in the main story, competitive Pokemon's a whole different thing. In the main story, you just pick a couple Pokemon that are just different and you just throw out whichever one you need. In Insectile, at least my hope is the player really thinks about how the different bugs they bring along with them really work together. Like they have shapes that maybe fit well together, but they also maybe have elements and mechanics that fit well together.
So let's say the game's out right now and like you have a few people that have their hands on it and they start telling their friends about it. Like what are you hoping that they're telling their friends about the game?
Well, we mentioned the style earlier. I think that'll be one of the big ones. I think people, or at least I really hope that people will be like, "Oh, this part in the game was so cute," or "This part in the game was so pretty." And that'll be one of the things they say. But I also hope that it makes them feel kind of clever. I think some of the mechanics are designed in a way that you feel like you're getting really good combos and you feel like you're growing and improving. So that's definitely like one of those things. You can play it super casually, but even if you play it that way, I think you'll feel like I found a combination that works for me, or I found like this group of bugs that works for me, and I felt really cool or really accomplished when I beat that boss or that kind of thing. So I think there will be a feeling of making you feel clever, and then just also I like my games to be very cheery. So I hope it's like kind of an escape for people, and they just think like, oh, this game's just so happy or just so joyful and charming. And that kind of goes with the style, but I think just the game's pacing and stuff in general will make people feel that way.
So I guess just the last question is where can people go find more information about your game?
So right now, the best place is to follow my socials. There isn't at least at the time, I don't know when this episode's going up, but at the time of recording, there isn't a Steam page up. But I do plan to get one kind of ASAP. As soon as I can get enough stuff that I got a good trailer, that Steam page is going up. So by the time that people listen to this, it may already be there. But even if it's not, Instagram's a great place to find me. I'm Narwalnut on there, so just search Narwalnut, or at NarwalnutDev on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, that's all I got as far as the podcast is concerned, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I think this show's really cool.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss a single episode. Leave a review, share with your friends. See you next time.